Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. And we are live. It's Hard Talk with Marsha Walker. I have some disappointing news, Trinidad and Tobago. Has been confirmed that Christmas, I'm seeing it here, oh gosh, Chris Talks Crime, today's guest, Christmas list. Guys, he is not coming. He is in the police station. I have spoken to his lawyer because I wasn't getting confirmation that he'd gotten the link and everything. I normally talk to my guests to make sure, did you get the link and whatnot? And nothing was going through. So it has been confirmed that he was taken into the police station. Um, so he will not be joining us. So y'all are stuck with me for the first hour. We actually, I thank goodness that Chris was not going to join us for the entire hour. We actually have Johnny Rogers joining us in the second hour. So he was so gracious to say as soon as he gets in, Donnie, that is, he will join us so that you don't have just me for the entire 2 hours. But we're going to talk. I mean, I have no idea what is going on. There are a lot of rumors going around as to why he was held again a second time and whatnot. So we're gonna open the phone lines right away. You guys could probably, chime in. If you don't know the telephone numbers, it is 222-8255, 222-8255. And I do not even know how to read your comments, guys. Oh my, I'm so new to this part of the show.
Good
But
afternoon, Marsha. Let me
hello.
interject and say that I'm the anchor in studio. I'll read your comments once they come in.
Awesome. You see, it's so good. It takes a village to have a show too. Okay, so while we, as I said, we'll open the phone line so you can, talk your views. We can wish Chris best of luck. We hope that he's comfortable. We so far what we're seeing in the media is that he was taken to the station. He was held at a house in Diggle Martin, somewhere around 10 o'clock this morning. So let's hope that he's had some lunch and that you know, I feel as though this is not the kind of international spotlight that we want. Um, you know, uh, but we have to wait to find out what is going on. I know that he was posting a few YouTube videos on, and well, I don't know that it was gangs. It were former gang members, gang leaders in Diego Martin. So I have no idea. We wait to find out what is going on. I did actually message his lawyer. He was the one that confirmed that he was in fact arrested or taken into the police station. And if there is any more information that comes while we are on air that I can share with you, I will share with you. So for now, we are going to discuss current affairs. I am so sorry. I had so many questions because I know my children. I don't know about your children, but my children all want to be YouTubers. And of course, he would have been able to help. So we would have been talking crime, but he would be able to tell some of the young people if this is uh, an occupation, I guess, of the future. It seems to be. And I often talk about our education system and it's outdated, and some of the subjects that we're learning now will not actually help them earn an income. So it would have been really cool to talk to him about, thinking outside of the box and, thinking a little bit more than an accountant and a lawyer. Well, I guess we all need lawyers. He needs a lawyer right now. But the social media content, podcasts, YouTubers, all these kinds of jobs are jobs of the 21st century, and I am not sure that we are actually learning that in in the current education system. Speaking about the education system, I see that Mayaro PTA is protesting. Well, St. George's, their PTA has given a deadline before, I don't know, before they take action. And I was reading up on some of the conditions of these schools, and for those who don't know me, I wrote a book in 2018. So it was a children's book, and because it was a children's book, I read the book from Lavantil to Guayari, and what I found was that the infrastructure just was not there. I remember in one school, we still have the wooden floors that are not, your fancy wooden floors. They're the old wooden floors with holes in them. So, I mean, you can, if you're not walking, your foot could end up inside of it. We still have classrooms being separated by boards. In one instance, there was no bulb in the girls' bathroom, and the door faced the courtyard. So if you have to sort of crack it open a little bit, then the courtyard, could see you. So it was just not conducive to learning at all. And then, of course, you have the heat. And in one school, the grass was overgrown so much, so they could not open the windows, so you can't even get breeze, and it just wasn't. And actually, I see that, and that was in 2018. Now in 2024, one of the stories, they spoke about snakes on the compound. You're hearing about different things like rat infestations. I'm hearing, I can't say whether it's true or not, but the whole customs department that shut down was because of some rat infestation. So, we like to boast that we have free education, we have free education, we have free education, but it is not the same. It's not access to education. Every child does not have equal access to education, because a child who is walking in on the first day of school with everything ready for them, breakfast, lunch, dinner, a home that is loving and supportive, going into an environment where you drive up to the door, to the entrance, and the teachers are there welcoming you back, and you get into this air conditioned classroom, and you have everything there, state of the art. You cannot expect a student who has all of that, and then you have another student who has almost nothing. The parents cannot figure out whether you're supposed to go to school, you can't go to school, you walk into school. And one student talks about he had to stand. Can you imagine standing all day, or sitting on the floor taking your notes because there was no furniture? And we are in 2024 to be hearing that we have no furniture. And I mean, we have 2 months, and I cannot understand. And this, I mean, I don't want to make it about the minister, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with the minister. And I saw a video where, with the same St. George's, and, the MP rightfully said, I was invited to the reopening of a school. Why would we be invited to the reopening of a school to see that furniture is missing, to see that there, rat feces or whatever feces, just, it's not ready? Don't reopen the school. It's that simple. It's better that you say, listen, the school's not ready. I don't know why it took so long, why it's not ready. But it's worse that you went from bad to worse, to say, okay, well, the school's going to be open and everything is put in place. You have parents who would work, and what are they supposed to do? Just send the children to not be supervised all day? All these things, impact. And Chris is here supposed to be talking about crime, but all these things impact crime. And I mean, Dr. Eric Williams would have spoken about the future of our nation being in the backpacks. If this is the backpack, then we are in trouble. We are in real trouble. We are seeing that, so you had COVID. We were woefully unprepared for online learning, but we seem to be woefully unprepared for face-to-face learning. It is insane to me that every year we hear of this. There has to be a solution, whether it be, and I was looking at the numbers, and I'm trying to balance it. I'm trying to be fair, because then I'll go to Mauritius and I'll say, okay, so Mauritius spends, I think it's like, hold on. Yeah, so actually, they are 3.643% of their GDP, and we're at 2.64. But in terms of the number, they've spent about 16 billion. We spend 5 billion on education. So okay, I could say, all right, well, maybe that's why Mauritius is number one in the world with education ranking, right up there. Maybe that's why, I don't know. But then I think about the private schools and I say, okay, you go on to like St. Monica's website and you'd see that their tuition per term is about $5,000. Okay, so you work that out, it'll be about $15,000. And if I just do really, really rough math, you see that, our works out to be about $16,000 a year per child. And if the private schools are able to do it with that tuition, well, then we have to ask ourselves, why aren't we able to do it? But even if the income is an issue, we need to know that upfront. We cannot be hearing that the minister is now saying, guys, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money. If you knew you did not have enough money, then don't send out fancy invitations, dress in your fancy clothes, put on your fancy hair, and then say, well, we come into a reopening, because we were not coming to a reopening. So we need to be open and honest. If it is that the money is not enough and you can legitimately, genuinely show where the money is not enough, maybe we could get corporate sponsors on board. So we could have said June, July, this is not happening. We don't have enough funds. But sometimes I don't know if it's that we don't have enough funds, because then, my husband is a contractor. So that's something that we kind of understand, because I saw that the minister spoke about, MP Haynes does not have the experience to speak on the issue. But when we hear things like $10 million for this and $10 million for that, and we spend this and we spend that, and we see the work, very quickly my husband can say, no way, that costs that much, right? We look at so most of the budget, they would say that is spent on salaries, so recurring expenses. Do we need all of these persons? Are we being as efficient as we can be? And you hear the prime minister. The prime minister is always saying to us, we need to do more with less, more with less, more with less. But it does not seem that his administration is doing more with less. And that's the bottom line. So that's education. Guys, don't forget to chime in, because it is me alone. I cannot speak for an hour, for 2 hours. So it's 222-8255 for those of you who are now logging on. Just to tell you that it is not false advertising. I am so sorry. We did not lure you with a title. But Christopher Hughes, he did agree and confirm. In fact, he was quite a while. He had said, he was willing to be on the show, but he was not well the first time. This time, he had said yes, and we were on, and spoke to him last night and everything. And unfortunately, Christopher Hughes has been taken into police custody again, somewhere around 10 o'clock this morning. He was taken, according to news reports, at a house in Diego Martin, and he was taken into police custody around 10 o'clock this morning. So for those of you now joining in and wondering, why are you hearing Marsha babbling on about education? That's why, I'm so sorry. I know that I was really excited myself to have Chris here with us today, but unfortunately he is not. So we hope that our TTPS are being reasonable in their dealings with someone who is a visitor to our country. And as we speak about the TTPS and being reasonable, I don't know if you guys know, but I've had my fair share of run-ins with the police. In fact, I have maybe a matter or two or three before the court. I have challenged. I challenged my constitutional rights. So I had filed for judicial review maybe 2 years ago. Can't remember when. Because I had challenged that I do not need police permission to have a one-man protest. And the police at the time in the video was saying, no, you need to move, and I was challenging them, and they threatened to arrest me. And so we took it to court, and the judge agreed that I do not need police permission to have a one-man protest. So we see that the TTPS sometimes, and I have to say oftentimes, because even the US State Department, even their report that speaks about extrajudicial killings and stuff like that, the TTPS is costing the states a good amount of money. I refer to this week where let me pull it up because I want to make sure. I don't like to give you guys wrong information, so let me pull it up. While I pull it up, I am seeing the government of Trinidad and Tobago is making an example of Christmas list. Explain to me, rapid fire entertainment, what example exactly are they trying to make? The tourists aren't safe, that the journalism isn't as safe anymore because he's reporting. That's what he's doing. He is a tourist, first of all. And I mean, he's an international, what I would consider international journalist. He's coming, he's reporting as is. So what is the example exactly? In fact, I think it's a poor example because, we argue about, our democracy being under threat. The role of media in a democracy is so critical, it's so crucial. Our right to freedom of speech, to freedom of information, the media holds such an important role. And last week we had a veteran journalist, Mr. Ken Ali, was here, and he took local journalists to task, saying that, in a press conference with the Prime Minister, you need to call him out on things that are not accurate. If he says something and it's total BS, you should be there to fact check him, to say, listen, you said this. So if, for example, the Prime Minister will stand up in a press conference and say, crime is not my responsibility, then you should be able to quote him on the Hansard and quote him when he was opposition leader and say, but Prime Minister, with all due respect, this is what you said when you were opposition leader, and you quote the time and the date and everything. These are things that the journalists, should be doing. And so the only example that can be being set is to say that we do bully our journalists, that we are trying to silence anyone that isn't, delivering friendly fire. And because, we have persons and those things, those arguments, those allegations are there, where persons say, if you really challenge this administration, you'd find yourself not being allowed into the next press conference and stuff like that. So all these things, if you ask me, are really just, kind of the only example they're setting is proving that, we don't have freedom of speech again. I mean, this is an international journalist who has been, speaking out, and is it that you find that he's making, rapid fire? You need to answer. I'm answering you now. You need to answer back. The police is being used as a tool to facilitate this budding dictatorship. And I have to agree to an extent that, I mean, it feels that way. It definitely feels that way. As I say, I was pulling back let me pull back. That's what I was going to do, because I think it was Justice Frank Sipasad. He tends to make these judgments. Yes. So, it was a situation where two businessmen were actually arrested for recording the police in action, and they took the police to court. And again, we spoke about the education and it's not being accessible to everyone. But when the police, violate the rights of a poor man who don't have the funds, they don't have the resources to take the TTPS to court, we have no idea. I mean, let's assume that this happened with someone who did not have the resources, and then you just go and plead guilty, or because you get poor advice, you don't want to spend time in jail, and then you end up with a criminal record. Because so these things really feel as though we don't have a sense of justice in the country. So anyways, these two businessmen, thank God, they had the resources. They took the TTPS to court, and it was found that, Justice Sipasad ruled that videotaping police in the public is not a criminal offense, and now the state has to pay. So in the ruling, what I found very well. I not just interesting, I totally 100% agree with it. He called on parliamentarians to get legislation in place to make sure that the police officers in question, they are the ones that pay the bill. Because police officers, after they do the nonsense, it's the states, it's you and I who pay tax paying, we pay tax. So it's a tax paying citizen. In the end, we are the ones footing the bill when the Trinidad and Tobago police officers do rubbish. So you arrest the man takes you to court. Now the state has to pay your bill. And so I have to 100% agree with Justice Sipasad, who says that, parliamentarians, we need to pass legislation to make sure that the police officers feel it in their pocket. Because it's not right that the police officers who either don't know the law, they're being vindictive. I can't say what. I don't want to impute improper motives, but whatever it is, they got it wrong. They threaten arrest. They do all sorts of different things. And when we take them to court and they are wrong, it is the taxpayer that has to bear the brunt. They have to be the ones to bear the burden at the end. Let's see rapid entertainment. With all due respect, miss, before Christmas lists being in Trinidad and visiting these areas where there is gang activity. Okay, well, there's a dot. So I don't know if he's still typing. If I click on it, is there a reason? I don't know what the dot is. I have no idea. Studio, can you tell me, is it that I'm not reading it? Because I feel as though maybe... Okay, right. He's typing again. The TTPS intelligence source must have some sort of information as to who these criminal elements are. I have limited space to fully type, so excuse me. I understand. Okay, so, the thing is, and persons say that, a lot of persons were commenting about, Christmas, show up the TTPS because he find the gangs and they can't find the gangs and whatever. At the end of the day, what is going on, in my humble opinion, is that the international community, those who already think that our democracy is being eroded, as Mr. Marker said, a budding dictatorship, things like this can only make the government look more like a dictatorship and less like a democracy. Okay, guys, call 222-TALK, 222-8255. Okay. Y'all think this lawyer is going to talk to me on air, boy? Oh, wow. Let me just confirm that I can say this on air. Well, we're hearing it live. I want to make sure that I could say it on air because it's something different now. Pressure. Tell them, Miss Marsha, I've yet to see police cam. Oh, right. Well, don't get me started on the body camera. All they keep saying, well, after we put on the body camera, we realized that we wouldn't be able to find it not hooked up or whatever, so it's not recorded or whatever. Just put it on anyway. If you were putting it on and then we realize, oh, look, it's incompetent. Y'all put it on, y'all did your job, and now we can't access the footage. That's one thing, but you're not putting it on the whole. You don't have enough body cameras. And then you see, okay, so you don't have a body camera, let me tape. And again, I have had my fair share of running with police, and they don't take kindly. I mean, I would say, excuse, I'm turning on my camera because I want it recorded. I want it recorded. I want, and speak into the camera. When I ask, what's your badge number? I want you to speak come close. My point is, since all of these individuals, besides Christmas list, showing videos in these same areas as him, why choose Chris and not go after everyone? Well, I agree. There has to be something. But listen, we don't know. And as I said, unfortunately, we don't have legislation. And I do think I want to join the call that the TTPS must start to pay out of pocket, because we are seeing, I mean, we once again, I mean, what is it, 7 or 8, but the numbers is significantly high, is pretty high, when you do comparative, analysis with police involved fatal shootings. And again, we I think in the last, well, not the last report, but we would have lost US funding some years ago because of, extrajudicial killings and stuff like that. So the TTPS, if they want our support, they have to do their part as well. And I mean, I never understand it. What is up with everybody else knowing where the gangs are, but the TTPS can't? All right. Yes, I can say it on air. Ah, okay. So they are saying that he has information on money laundering because of the interview that he did in the St. Paul Street where he was showing gold. They think that he has information on money laundering. They took all of his gear. So y'all are hearing it first on, live on Hard Talk with Marsha Walker. Chris List. Um, he is being accused of having information on money laundering because of the interview that he did in St. Paul showing gold, and the police has taken all his gear. It's amazing to me. So now Chris have all the information on the gangs. Chris have all the information on money laundering. Just now they go say Chris have all the information on the girls that go missing and we can't find them. Chris have all the information. Best we could hire Chris to be the commissioner of police because Chris seems to know where to get all the information. It is amazing to me. Now it's Chris have information on money laundering. Well, yes. Y'all hear it, guys. Chris List, according to the police, has information on money laundering. How much we pay Erla every month? How much we pay the TTPS? At the same time, they should have just used whatever he has and investigate instead of having him remove his content. Well, listen, I cannot even say we trust that the TTPS know what they're doing. But it's amazing to me that this Canadian YouTuber come to Trinidad and apparently in his little time that he here have all kind of information. He have information on gang, he have information on money laundering now. And so our new thing in Trinidad and Tobago is to arrest tourists who come, take video, who find information, who get into wherever. The new thing now is to arrest our journalists because, I mean, we have other journalists that break stories all the time. This is not the first person who's broken a story. We tell these stories all the time. So is this what our government has come to arrest journalists and to say, well, look, you have information? So the journalists our journalists are now part of the investigation of TTPS. The journalists get information. So, and I mean, I just think of all the documentaries that you would watch. I mean, and persons would be, when you watch documentaries on narco states, etc., and the persons will speak anonymously, etc., and then the Americans will just go and arrest them because look, you've done a show, and so obviously you have information. This is crazy. It is crazy to me that our journalists, and well, it's not our journalists, so international journalists can come and doing what journalists do. This is the role of the media. He is investigating. He is being an investigative journalist. And we have arrested him claiming that he has information on money laundering. First one was he has information and he helping gangs and whatever nonsense. This is crazy. Wow. Oh, wow. Yeah, well, somebody asked what they say he do now. Let me type into them, tune in. I just said it. Okay, guys, so if you are now joining in, first of all, you're late. We don't start on Trini time. When we say 4, we say 4. That's why I don't actually put interview time. If you ever look at the flyer, I don't put 4 p.m. I put the interview time is 4:05 p.m. because I know we have to do news and we have to say hello and then the interview starts. If you are just joining in, guys, we do not have Christmas list here today. I know we promised to have him and I was so excited to have him, but unfortunately, he has been held by the police once again. This time, they are saying that he has information on money laundering. So, Chris is now our number one investigator in Trinidad and Tobago because he apparently has all the information that the TTPS needs. So, they have taken all his gear because they can't do the work. And so now, we taking Chris information. What Chris rapid fire entertainment, what Christmas list did is what the police should be doing undercover. If they literally want to see an improvement in the fight against crime in Trinidad and Tobago. Rapid fire, you're absolutely correct. At the end of the day, Chris got the information. If they think Chris, let's assume Chris has the information. The TTPS should feel ashamed that this Canadian YouTuber got information that you cannot get. Absolutely insane. Absolutely crazy. It is 4:36, right? We spoke about, so the videotaping police is not a criminal offense. And, and I do want to echo the calls that the TTPS, when found guilty in court of abusing their rights, of misreading the law, misquoting the law, arresting people when they're not supposed to arrest them, I do think that they must feel it in their pockets. So I call on our parliamentarians, I call on our attorney general, get some legislation into the parliament and let us ensure that police officers who are incompetent, who are malicious, who are whatever, we need them to pay their bills, not taxpayers. I did not actually get to congratulate Akeem. Akeem won silver in his discus throw in the Paralympics. Very good on mounting the podium. So I just wanted to say congratulations from all of us here at Power 102 FM Digital and from me, Marsha. All right. Now, I don't want to go into agriculture, but that has been taking up a lot. And it's funny because one of the guys in Chris's YouTube video, Indigo Martin, he's actually seen in the agriculture video as well. But I don't want to go into agriculture because we do have someone who is an expert in the field of agriculture. He will join us 5 o'clock. I was hoping he would have come early so that my voice can get a break. So I'm gonna kind of, and that's a lot because agriculture has been in the news. We would have seen the issue with Heritage and the chicken farmer, then the garden in Bagatelle that was torn down. But while we wait, actually, let me just message to see. I think I might need some water, guys. Y'all are not calling in. I know that y'all are typing. Thank you, Rapid Fire, for typing so that I'm not just talking to myself here. I do not know how, radio announcers and stuff do it. They just, but if you call in, then I can get a bit of a break. I can hear you. Rapid Fire, why aren't you calling in? I say this because I watch a lot of crime documentaries to the extent police officers go to solve crime. And I think this is supposed to be part of police training. Well, you know what? I'm going to maybe find someone. I don't know if y'all want Gary to come. We could find somebody to talk about, the police training and maybe have them speak on this Christmas list issue. What is the status of the debate? Well, DW, let me be very frank. I don't like being dictated to. This is my show. And I will tell you how the WhatsApp conversation went. One person said, and it's not an, I really don't like to give him any spotlight. I don't like to spend time, but only because you asked. I don't want to call at the moment. Y'all, Rapid fire. We need to put up money and buy a phone for rapid fire so he could call in and talk to me, okay? Because he real type in here. So, what's the status of the debate? I'm going to address this, and I'm going to address it very quickly and move on. Even if I hear by myself and I need content very quickly, because I don't want to give this Philip Alexander man too much of my airtime. It's simple. Will you debate Gary? Yes, because Gary said yes long time ago. Right? Cool. But he wanted your rules, your this, your that. I say, no problem. Last week, which was when it was supposed to be, was a recorded show because I was in Margarita and I was coming back. So I would not be physically able to be at a computer at 4 p.m. because I was coming back on that same day. So for that week, Philip, it's not going to be live. But if you want, you could wait till next week, which would have been this week, and we could do it live. You want this, you want that, you have all kind. Listen, just come. Both of y'all talk. Let's see. Have it out. I'm gonna be there to make sure all in put the station and put my name in no kind of bacchanal. That's all I'm gonna be there for. But you think you think the whole world against you because apparently me and Gary team up now because me and Gary playing hockey together since I was about 12 years old. So, you know, we's best friends. As if they didn't see the video with Gary and I in 2020 where Gary shut down my motorcade and I asked him if he had talk or if he gonna get on like a little boy. So clearly he didn't see that because I don't take things personal. It doesn't matter if I know you. It doesn't matter if we play hockey since I was 12 years old. If I think you're talking rubbish and if I think you're doing rubbish, I'm going to call you out. And Philip should know that because Philip forgot in 2015, he had asked me to be his campaign manager. And I said, but Philip, in Diego Martin West, I can't even vote for you. And I'm here listening to you. I'm here listening. I'm sitting. I'm trying to, because I want to change. I want to change. So I was trying to get Philip in office because as somebody grew up in Diego Martin West, I wanted Keith Rowley gone. I wanted a proper alternative so I could vote. In 2015, I didn't vote because I can't vote for Rowley, and I certainly couldn't vote for, I think it was Fuad. I ain't voting for him, and I wasn't voting for Philip. So 2015, me and vote. Right? So I'm here trying to be the bigger person because I invited Gary. I invited Michaela, right? We have MND, Gavin Nicholas. He will be joining us next week. I will invite Timothy Hamel-Smith and every other political leader, right? If Rowley would come, he could come too. If Kamala would do interviews with the media, she could come too. So me want to leave out Philip. Philip, name political leader, come and talk. But you see that kind of pitbull behavior. And let me tell you all something. Philip has insulted my female body parts. He has said things that are very derogatory to me, right? He has spoken publicly. And it's just crazy. It's crazy because he's talking about my integrity when I support Kamala. But we ain't gonna go there, right? But because you are the political leader of a party, it doesn't matter what I think about you. You are the political party and a political leader of a party, of a third party, of one of our million third parties. And I thought I should give the office the respect, right? And you and Gary seem to have a tit for tat going on. Come and talk. Come talk live on air. So it was live, you know, and so that ain't going nowhere because I'm not wasting my time. I have real gray hair. I sprayed to come on the show because it's looked like a bald patch on the camera. So just before the show, I put a little spray there. But if y'all see me in person, I have real gray hair and I don't need any more. So that debate not happening. But what I could tell y'all, and I called him out on it, the hypocrisy of him wanting it on a bigger station. That's what he said. I said, but you are the person who talks about the small man and the 1% and this is an opportunity that you could, if you think that you could bring the whole world to listen, then why not give it to the small man? Why not give me the opportunity to have the debate on my channel? Isn't that like literally walking the talk? But anyways, so no offense, Gary Griffith tried his best literally as commissioner of police, and if these politicians put ego aside and literally tried to fix crime, we wouldn't see this level up of criminal activity. I do agree. I do agree that we have a lot of ego. I think, and I don't like to use the word politicizing something, because I do think that everything technically should be politicized, in meaning that, politics impacts everything. We saw that politics impacted whether we could go to the beach or not. So at the end of the day, it must be politicized in that way. But we definitely need to see less ego. We need to see more country first. I think, when persons talk about being a traitor because the UNC MPs or myself who would speak out against the political leader of the UNC, I would like to see people like Amory Brown speak out, people like Penelope Beckles speak out against Keith Rowley and their administration. I think that, dissent is fundamental to a democracy. I think we should be able to speak, and we shouldn't feel victimized after. We shouldn't be, cast aside and backbenched because we are willing to speak out. Healthy debate is what our country needs. If we cannot have mature conversation, then we are going nowhere. So can the debate still continue without him? Who would you like to see? I mean, let me tell you, I actually invited Fitzgerald Hines before Philip, because it was Fitzgerald Hines who was the Minister of National Security. So quite frankly, I thought it should be him versus Gary. Gary speaking a lot on crime. So come on air. And I've said that. I made a Facebook post about that. I would like to see Anita Haynes versus Gatsby Dolly. I would like to see them, sit and not face off. It's not a matter of confrontation, boxing ring. But we should be able to, without parliamentary privilege, without what I consider to be a very biased Speaker of the House, I would like to see those who consider themselves government in waiting, or not even just persons who are government in waiting. I'd like to see Stuart Young versus Kevin Ramnarine. Persons who, who are they have the experience, or they have the qualifications, they are the stakeholders, and this is again what journalism should be, right? I would like to see hard questions. So persons who are knowledgeable, because there's also something that I like to see. You don't know what you don't know. So sometimes the Prime Minister might say something, and because that is not my area of expertise, I may not catch him right away. Whereas somebody who, that's their area of expertise. So for example, Gary, I think, is well versed in crime. So if he says something, then Gary would be able to say, no, that's not accurate, and call him to account one time. So these are the kinds of dialogues that I would like to see. I would same when persons talk about constitutional reform. Every time I went to a hope meeting, and this Timothy Hamilspit spoke about constitutional reform, and the People's Partnership, this and that, and I said I had to call them out, and I've called everyone out that says that, because it's misinformation. The People's Partnership had a special majority. They did not have a constitutional majority. So while there are some things that we could tinker with, those things that you see in the constitutional reform report, many of those things cannot be changed unless a government wins some 31 seats. The only person who ever had that was NAR. They were the only political party that won with such a margin, right? So when I sit and I hear people talk about, Kamala had the majority and this, and I said, no, she had a special majority. She did not have a constitutional majority. So things like fixed term and two-term limit and right of recall, and having the Speaker of the House elected versus, having her selected by the political party in government, all those things could not be changed and cannot be changed unless a government has a constitutional majority. So in fact, I would argue that is why we have to either keep it close, like how we have it right now, or UNC better get the act together. Because if you ask me, the kind of licking UNC going and get in 2025, if we don't get the situation under control, we will see Keith Rowley with a constitutional majority, and I think that might be the end of TNT. But anyways, just tuned in. So Gatsby Thriller has just tuned in. Oh gosh, where is Chris Must List? Chris is staying in Diego Martin at a lawyer's house. Albert Montano. Okay, so for those of you who have just joined in, Chris Mustless has been detained by police again. Information coming from, well, it was his lawyer that I reached out to get him on the show in the first place. Apparently, they are saying, the TTPS are saying that he has information on money laundering based on the video that he did in St. Paul with the gold. They are saying that he has information on money laundering. He was taken from a home in Diego Martin and is in the police station. He's been there since 10 a.m. And they've taken all his gear. So, guys, I am very sorry. Chris Must is not with us today. Hopefully, we can get him next week. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe he's just given up on Trinidad. And we spoke a bit about this situation. And, it really spells trouble for journalism, for journalists who go in there, do the work. This is not something new. He is not, on uncharted territory. Journalists do this all the time. They speak to gangs all over the world. In fact, he has done this so many times. The man's been to Jamaica, to Africa, to England, to everywhere, speaking, to gangs. And anyways, so Chris seems to be doing all the work of the TTPS because he has gotten all the information on gangs and on money laundering and on all kinds of information that the TTPS has not been able to get. So, guys, you have me because Chris is in custody and he's been there since 10 o'clock in the morning. So that is, guys, why you are not seeing Chris and you are seeing me, for those of you who have just tuned in. DW, but there are numerous political leaders from different parties. Would be a good idea to gather a few to hear a different perspective, I guess, to get the ball rolling. I agree. But guess what? They don't seem to be willing. I have messaged Michaela Pandy on several occasions, inviting her to come on the show. I am yet to get a response. So I would be honest, I don't know. Maybe they are afraid. But I will screenshot this and send it to all the political leaders and ask if they would all be willing to come on the show at the same time. So it wouldn't just be about Gary and Philip, but we can have Michaela, we can have, and as I said, we have Gavin Nicholas coming on next week. So I have been reaching out to them. Gavin is not afraid of the media, so he will come and he will speak. But as I said, can't say why Michaela has not come on the show. I will reach out to Timothy Hamilsmith to ask him if he will come on. But it's a good idea. So are you suggesting maybe have all of them on at the same time, or do what I'm doing now? We had Gary, where I did not speak to Gary about crime, specifically. I did ask him about NTA, the political climate, etc. And I will be speaking to Gavin Nicholas about MND, asking him what's the future of his political party, etc. Albert, what the TTPS doing for the government is to stop anyone from showing the shortcoming of the PNM government because they have no answers to stop crime. Yeah, so we did speak about that. We said that some persons on the chat thought that the TTPS are being used by this government as a tool for this galloping democracy. It is quite unfortunate. It really is. Bring everybody. Okay, so rapid fire wants all the political leaders of all the various third parties. If I go and find all of them that registered, maybe the first step is to ask them, hey, are you still like a political leader? You just registered. Are you just a political leader on paper? So, yeah, a political debate CNN style. Well, a political debate CNN style, I don't know, something virtual, like, or you all want the whole setup with the podium and the this and the that. I think we have to know where we are, right? So I think we want to crawl before we run. I think if we can just have them like a round table and just have a conversation, first of all, that should, they should not need a mediator. These are political leaders. These are persons who would have to go and sit at the UN, sit at a table with other prime ministers, other presidents, other world leaders, if they can sit and control themselves and speak maturely and stay on topic, then, I mean, heaven forbid. So I think even before we get to that sort of debates, because, and I'll say why. Everybody has like these brilliant manifestos. I want to see you in an environment that's not so perfectly controlled, where the answers are not something that you can necessarily memorize, that you can prepare for. I want that you guys are sitting. Let me see who's the hothead. Let me see who can carry themselves as a real prime minister in waiting. When you're challenged, how will you respond? So I would like to see, and I mean, you guys will tell me no, that's you don't want that, but I would like to see them at a round table. And well, in this case, it would be a square table, a square screen, where I mean, they can maturely have conversation. The audience there, you all could ask them. So is me exaggerating? But I think you get right. Yeah. So do you like the idea, DW, of what I'm suggesting? So we bring them all on, they'll all be a guest, and you guys could ask them, if I would want, my first question is, do you think that you'll split the votes? What do you think? What is your impact on this particular election? What is going on is a real sign that Trinidad has no freedom of speech, because Christmas list is not encouraging anyone to commit crime. No, I agree that this situation with Chris is really concerning. I mean, we have an international journalist, what I would consider an investigative journalist, coming here, and he is doing what the media is supposed to do. The media is supposed to uncover stories, bring breaking news. That is what they're supposed to do. And it is. I do feel that this is a suppression of the media, of freedom of speech, our right to access information. I do think that this does not augur well at all for media and information and freedom of speech. This definitely, I think it tramples on our constitutional right to be informed, to have access to information. So, but Albert, what do you think? Would you protest? I mean, I feel as though I am here and I'm telling y'all, I'm getting tired of being here and talking. Kudos to those persons who have been activists all their lives. But Sparrow sang a song since before I born. We like it. So we have the government that we deserve. It had to be, because we all seem to be talking. Everybody have real guts when they're behind a screen. But I mean, I have protested. I lie down in front of Parliament. Lie down flat in front of Parliament. I have been locked out in front. I've been told she could protest in Woodford Square, inside Woodford Square. She can't come out on the pavement. I have taken the police, when the Attorney General and the Commissioner of Police, I have them in court. So what's the next step? So Albert, we're saying that it's a real sign that that we have no freedom of speech. What's the next step? How do we get back? How do we fight for our right to freedom of speech? DW, I'm seeing it. Yes, that's perfect, Marsha. So I'm going to try to make it happen. I will ask them. I will clip this part of the show to say, this is what we want to do. Will you be part of it? And I'll answer you all next week and let you know. Right, guys, give me 2 seconds. Let me just, we've made it to the first hour, guys, with just me alone. Yeah. Okay, hold on. My daughter wants to say hello. She's really begging to say hello. So you can talk to them while I message and find out. Hey, don't show them what you're eating and stuff.
Why?
Because that's not a ladylike.
Your other guest is coming on.
Oh, yes. Okay. So my other guest. Oh, look. My other guest is there. Okay. So now you can go. She was, put your tongue back away. She was holding on for you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you holding on for me.
Okay. Can you say bye? Could you say bye? If you're gonna be here, you have to talk. Okay. Uh-uh. Mom's working now. Where's your sister? Sarah. She's begging to stay.
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
Okay, so Donnie, thank you very, very much.
Thank you
If
for the invite.
if you find that I'm not speaking, it is because I've spoken for the last hour all by myself. I do not
Oh,
know
wow.
how people do it. I think so now I feel sorry for the Minister of Finance when he has to deliver a budget presentation
Right,
because
right. Yes, yes,
woo,
yes.
yes. So I'm just gonna start you off.
Yeah.
You know what,
Hmm.
Donnie, you could tell us why you can speak on agriculture.
Now you're gonna put him in a position where I have to speak
You
about
don't like to
myself.
speak on yourself. I know. Oh gosh. Now that you just said that, I think I hate when people do that to me. So that's probably being a
Yeah,
real
yeah.
hypocrite
Right,
if I do
right.
that to you.
Okay. Um, so I basically I tell people I am the accidental farmer. My background was really business and academics, and about 9, 10 years ago, this was when this journey began. So I am a dairy farmer. I also have a dairy processing business, and eventually I got involved to the extent where where I sit as a director with the Agricultural Society of Trinidad and Tobago. I am the national livestock rep to the board, as well as holding the position of as chairman of the education and training committee. So it's a few hats that I wear at the society, and the agriculture has grown onto me where not being in it before and being in it now and being a practitioner and leveraging on the value chain. So it's not just that I'm a dairy farmer producing milk. I'm a dairy farmer producing milk that who is also making products to distribute nationally. Um, I have really seen and become hooked, if I could put it like that, as to why agricultural development is critical to our country. Having the academic background, that's me. you know, um, it I delve into a lot of research into agriculture, and that is why sometimes I'm on various platforms such as yours, and I will have talks and training programs and those sorts of things throughout. And I guess everything that I've done, it landed me here on your program today. So I think that's enough about me, right?
Thank you so, so, so much. I wrote down accidental farmer. Maybe I want to ask you how. Because you can't say something like accidental farmer and then not have me ask you how.
Right, right. So I really got into farming at a very small scale, just as a means of stress relief.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. Just on a weekend, you go onto that property and you see about the plants. You sell as well. But it was more for therapeutic value. It was more therapeutic value than anything else. And eventually, one thing led to the other, and I went onto a property hoping to do crops, and I went onto a larger property, 20 acres, hoping to do crops. And when I got this property, it had quite a number of very large cows. I could put it as easily as that. And one thing led to the other. My background
so this
is
was a hobby, a stress relief.
yeah, exactly. It was a stress relief,
20
and when
acres.
the opportunity presented itself, having a background of entrepreneurship, I was like, hey, okay, well, let's see how this goes. Numerous learning curves, numerous, because I didn't have an agricultural background or a strong agricultural background. And thankfully, I developed a couple fortes along with my family. And, it landed me here today, you know.
I notice you say opportunity. I'm going to put you in the hot spot
Yeah.
very
Mhm.
quickly. I hope you're
Sure.
not one that tries to be politically correct, because there are two pieces of there are two stories in the news right now, and
Right.
I'd like to get your take on it. If you
Right.
want my take on it first, so that I can take away some of the hot water, you could let me know. But
Well,
heritage and the chicken farmer,
yeah, yeah,
and then the crops
correct.
in Diego
Mhm.
Martin.
Right. So in general, I will say that we have a critical need to develop our food production capacity and, in the larger picture, our agricultural sector. There is no doubt that we need to aggressively and critically develop our systems and our rates of production and our end results must be increasing, right? Because we're at that stage, and we'll get into that conversation later about where our current yields are. Um, but with that being said, we have to be responsible as well as to how we do it, right? Um, and I am going primarily on the information that we have picked up so far from various sources. I will pick up information from a few sources and try to come up with something balanced as we could be. And at the society, whilst we will do everything to promote agricultural development and sustainable agricultural development, investing into production in an area where it's okay. So as in the area with heritage, the information coming up is that it is within certain parameters of a pipeline. Active or not, they are pipelines, right? That, if it's housing, if it's agriculture or whatever, that's a no-no, right? The issue with the guys
Why
up north.
wait then? Why wait? Why? I mean, there's obviously, you use the word opportunity, and I wrote it down when you said, I was given opportunity. Let's see where it goes. When there is someone who is willing to, one, earn
Mhm.
a legitimate income, two, I have a question here. So we're kind of going all over, but
Sure, yeah, yeah.
um, I'm hearing just on social media that there is
Mhm.
an egg shortage.
Correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We have a
So
serious egg shortage.
So if we have a
Mhm.
serious egg shortage, we have a guy who's being part of the
Mhm.
solution,
Yeah.
not perfectly,
Mhm.
fairly imperfectly.
Yeah.
But I mean, how long would this setup have taken?
Right. So,
Why allow it to reach
yeah.
that stage? Why
Okay.
not help him and give him an
Mhm.
opportunity in a better, in a more
Right.
practical,
Yeah.
feasible piece of land?
So let's look at the dynamics of it now, right? As well. So the guy said he had 14,000 heads of layers. That investment from buying chicks to where he is now, I would estimate it at probably $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So a chick is $22 and you have 14,000. So that's just over $250,000. Your pen is no cheap um, asset to put down on the ground there. Then you have the cost of feed, and we all know that the cost of feed locally is very high. To feed 14,000 chickens optimally to maintain their health so that you can get a good rate of production is no cheap act. So I will estimate that conservatively at about $1 million from start to where he is now. And the thing is, why would you want to put out that amount of money in an area where the land is not yours? You're within certain parameters to a pipeline. And from the information that we have, we are poised to believe that there were numerous correspondences from Heritage to this farmer. Um, However, I like to go on empirical evidence, and we don't have that in front of us. So I believe we need to be, balanced. So I think the solution, because on the flip side is that if the farmer is left there for any length of period, and I'm no attorney, but there was a judgment a few years ago that set a precedent from Justice Carol Gobin, where 14 years, and you basically have some grounds for tenure. So I think that taken in consideration where we need to be in agriculture, and it could form a part of their corporate social responsibility, they could have looked at relocating this farmer, as in the case with Diego Martin, right? So I believe that
And
sometimes,
that's what I asked in terms of. So you said you gave the financial cost, but in
yeah.
terms of the time, I mean, the same way that they came with mask and ammunition and all of that, why not come when it's $1, $2, $3 investment, at the first day, the second day, the third day? So that's why I asked you in terms of the time. So we know, okay, you're looking at $1 million conservatively. How
Mhm.
long would he have taken to get to the stage that he got to there?
So that's not a straightforward answer, because we don't know if this is his first set of birds, if it is second set of birds, if it is third set of birds, or what. We don't have that information. What I can say is,
Let's say he had $1 million in hand and he went at it right away.
right. So if this is his first set of birds that he has towards laying, meaning the first set of birds he had as chicks that he's growing, it will take about 7 months, 6, 7 months from chicks to the actual phase where they are laying and producing. All right. It will take a few months to do the pen. Now, that is just if this is his first cycle. If he had flocks before, we are looking at, I think generally you keep those birds layers for about a year and a half, 2 years or so, and then you change your flock, because they would have, we all know you could buy X layers, from a flock shop, right? So that is what they
But
do when
then you
they,
have to put the pen up first before you even put
yeah,
the.
yeah, you have to put the pen up first, and
So
that will
when the
take.
pen is going up, why not bring the heavy artillery at that point? Why not
Well,
break it out at that point?
yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes you see in our country, sometimes monitoring is an issue. You know. Now, whilst we talk about, now this is an issue that deals with land tenure for farmers. I cannot have this conversation without saying that our information at the Agricultural Society indicates that at least 65% of producing farmers in this country do not have land tenure. All right. Now, land tenure is critical.
Repeat that again. Say that again, because I'm going to stay really quiet, because
Right.
that's like a TikTok moment.
Okay. So let me say it again. Our information at the Agricultural Society indicates that statistically, at least 65% of producing farmers in our country do not have proper land tenure. All right. And that's the
This
reality.
guy is not really very special.
Exactly. It's not a unique situation, right?
It's like a PH taxi situation.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now,
Wow.
this situation, I believe, I mean, Heritage have plenty land. At the same time, you don't want to open the door now for people to come and squat on the land, and the solution is give them land, right? You don't want to encourage that, right? Because we have to be responsible, as I said. And but I believe that taking in consideration where our productive yields are, the need to develop agriculture, the fact that okay, the man would have spent X amount of money already, why not adopt the same approach that the farmers in Diego Martin received? Because now that sets a precedent as to how these things have to be dealt with, you know, with all things being equal, right? So with the farmers in Diego Martin, what is actually I mean, I must applaud, is the fact that they got a 1-to-1 ratio with land. So it means if somebody was occupying 3 acres, they get back 3 acres. And I can tell
Well,
you from the information we
I
have.
live in Diego Martin, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to take the conversation maybe a different way.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so we have the issue where we have to regularize the 65%.
Yeah.
Clearly. But the residents in Diego Martin don't even want to, like, why are we putting up another? According to them, it's for a community center.
Right.
You know, so we are looking at this and we kind of go, half the community centers we don't have access to. You put up these big $1 million, the Bagatelle Stadium. The young boys can't access it. In fact, we would have preferred if it had just stayed dirt because the boys were playing cricket and football and everything there.
Yeah.
Now you put up your big fancy stadium. The boys can't just go every night and kick ball.
Yeah.
So
correct.
you are just moving these people who've been there for a long time to put up something. Well, we don't know. You know, I mean,
Well,
to give in our mind to give finances, you know. And last week we had Mr. Ken Ali who said that our arable lands are being misused. And he spoke about, you know, you want to put up shopping malls and put up a development and put up all kinds of things. Yeah. And so that's why, you know, when you speak about, you know, just moving, okay, great, we're moving them. But maybe don't even move them. Maybe just regularize them right there. You know, what is this need to have everything be a big community center? You know, in fact, you wanted to teach. You could then find a way to make that same space that they were using into a training facility. You use them, you bring persons in there, you have, you know, young persons learn how to earn an income. You know, so you didn't have to mash it up, build a whole something that really not going to be utilized. There's a space happening there. The community in Diego Martin, these young boys have really gotten into farming. I know them, you know, and they've, you know, all of them just trying to, you know, they're trying to avoid crime.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So they're doing this, they're doing that. They'll come and say, "Miss, look, you know, this come from my land," and they come and they bring this, and they're so proud. They are so proud that it came from their land. And, you know, yes, eat this and yes, eat that. I say, "Oh gosh, I don't eat it. Oh gosh, no. You know, and they're so proud." So this could have been a perfect opportunity to use the space as it is and develop it into something as is.
Well, this is similar to something that happened a few years ago. I remember there was a project in La Joquita, Talparo, in one of the empty lots in La Joquita, where opposition Senator Jolene John had a project called Project Hope. And that created an avenue for the youths who didn't have jobs, who were linemen on the block, who was getting in trouble, to actually come there, learn about agriculture, learn about the business of agriculture, and actually get into production and sell what they were doing. And that project created such a turnaround. So I am fully agreeing with what you're saying. This could have been a direct engagement with the youths of the area to keep them off the streets. Put it under a training program. And yes, developing. It could have even gone where you engage the primary schools in the primary school syllabus that has agri-science at the tender years up to like standard 3. Because, you know, when you're going standard 4, all agriculture is SA, right? Yeah. So we have up to standard 3, which is good because you could create that lasting impression with the child, right? In those years, those are the impressionable years, right? So it could have been used for many, many, many other uses that still keep with the initial use and the current use that it's in, right? It's just a matter of policy, right? Unfortunately, you know.
So would you say that our policy prioritizes production, agriculture, or are we trying to put up malls and developments and community centers? And I mean, even our community centers, I think they are just so horrendous. I mean, let me just give you some background about myself so you'd understand. I'm a homeschooling mom.
Okay.
My children spend all day outside, whole day outside. You know, I think that that's how they learn. You know, the actual writing, 2 hours max, because
Right.
they need to be outside. They need to learn. They need to go on farms. They need,
Right.
go to a pet shop, go and go to the zoo, go and learn like that,
Yeah.
So when I see a community center and I cannot even see a field, all I see is bricks and concrete
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
air conditioning, I think this is
Mhm.
not a community center.
Yeah.
So that's just to show you how, why I think it's like, you really took away
Mhm.
a farm
Mhm.
for a brick, you
Yeah.
know.
Now, if we really want to promote agriculture at the community level, why not engage green spaces in these community centers,
Yeah.
right? Where you could even look at new technologies in agriculture, right? Agriculture shouldn't be, and agriculture has moved where it was backbreaking to, an area where you use technology. In agriculture, you could work smart, not necessarily hard, right? The developments in agriculture allow for this now. But if we go to the land use, I think Arangwes is a prime example, right? You drive through Arangwes, you drive through anywhere like around the interchange and thing like that, and you must see at least 3 signs with acres for sale. Those acres are prime agricultural lands, and they're going to be converted into warehouses and retail space and those kind of things. Now, at one point in time, Arangwes was the breadbasket of the country. It's not anymore. Now, that's a double-edged sword. So, for the past 9 years, the productive levels across the field in agriculture have dropped, and they have dropped tremendously. In rice, we produce just about 3% or 4% of what we used to produce 9 years ago. In milk, cow's milk, we produce probably about 7% of what we used to produce 9 years ago. Vegetable production has dropped by about 43%. Um, I believe local fruits, has dropped by about 35% or so. And this is why we have an increase in food import bill. From a couple of years ago, we were at 5.2 billion. Now we are at 7.3. This is why now we are importing tomatoes from Costa Rica. Can you imagine that we importing tomatoes? Seriously, why should we be importing tomatoes?
I want to be devil's advocate for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if to do that because I don't want to take the conversation away just yet. So
Sure.
I'm going to be devil's advocate. I'm going to write it down to be devil's advocate.
All right.
Hold on, let me write it down. Devil's advocate on tomatoes.
Good.
On tomatoes, right? Because you spoke about policy and you spoke about a double-edged sword in Arangwes.
Yeah.
Do you think it's the right thing that we're doing? Or why would you call it a double-edged sword?
It's a double-edged sword because the support for farmers have been little at best, in my, from my interpretation. And it's no secret, we have an older cohort of farmers. Our farmers locally have generally are still more mature people versus young people. And whilst we have, a couple of programs from the government, like the Youth in Agriculture Project and stuff like that, it still doesn't take away, because they are just students right now. One cohort has just graduated, so there's no actual production coming from them, But the producing farmers are older people. So the sector has not been attracting younger farmers over the last number of years. And with less support, pre-deal larceny was one issue that basically kill the cow, literally. In my case, yeah, kill the cow, right? um, and some farmers being older, like in Arangways, and you could get $3-4 million for an acre. Why you gonna come out in the hot sun and face pretty larceny and bandit tying me up and beating me? I'm lucky to be alive when they finish with me. Why are you going to risk that for? When I could take $3-4 million for an acre in Arangways right now and just relax myself for that. Right? Who wouldn't take that opportunity right now? Right? And that's the double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
So
because I was about to ask if you think that we should be looking at legislation to stop, the sale of arable land, but that may.
what we need is a very simple approach. And I listen, so I do a lot of research as you would know. And because I can't come here and speak without being evidence-based, right? I'm not going to do that. What we and I've heard a lot of people speak about the development of the sector, and some people come up with this very complicated approach. I am telling you, the answers are very simple. All you need is a clearly defined policy that says we want to develop food production, we want to develop the sector. These are the areas we want to look at, and this is how we're going to look at it. The agricultural sector, because of where we are now with the low productive yields, need that focus and need that approach. Sometimes you could create change from the bottom up. Sometimes you have to do it from the top bottom. It's a standard thing in any organizational structure, in any organizational approach. It's a standard thing, right? The agricultural sector is one. Yes, you could empower the farmers, and that will create change. But when you're looking at sustainable change in the way that we need it now because of where we are in production, we need that trust to be led by the government via policy, via something as simple as a strat plan, right? And why can't we have it? It has not been done before. I have seen many food reports and reports on developing this and developing that. Ask me if, and I was shocked. I saw a report in 2018 to develop food production, and when I was reading it, I was thinking, we ain't doing nothing, and we have not been doing anything. And this is across the board, right? If we look at animal husbandry, the Monjaloo station is known to farmers who rear animals as a source of forage. Over the number of years, the quality as forage has dropped so bad that I think the grass is wasted there right now. I don't even think about it to cut the grass anymore, because it's just really of no use. Once I said, okay, let me try it on my own, went and get a van load of grass for my animals. My cows spread it nice and use it to lie down on. They didn't eat it. You might have more success with goat and sheep eating it because, they will eat anything. But eating and eating something nutritious is two different things, right? So, and that is just one example of some of the implements or some of the details that has created the situation where our agricultural yields have been historically low, right? Now, because of that, in the beginning of the year, I contributed to an article and I predicted higher food prices holding for a longer period, which basically meant that, you'll have periods like around Diwali, around Christmas and stuff like that, where prices of produce will be a little higher, sometimes very high, and right after that period, it drops low. This year, you did not see that. Unfortunately, my prediction was correct because the statistics over the last few years paved the way where we could have said this year, we are going to notice that the period is longer that the prices are holding for. All right. And that is not going to change until we do something with our food production. Um, and I'll give an example of what happens if you don't engage in an aggressive or sustainable food production drive. We all love St. Lucia, right? One of the most beautiful islands in the Caribbean. Um, my family and I were in St. Lucia a couple of months ago, and Massey is everything there, right? They have Masseys all over. And no disrespect to Massey or anything, they have capitalized on a market. St. Lucia's agricultural yields are very low. If they don't have much in agriculture, they rely on imports and those kind of things. You will never believe what is the cost of a pound of hot peppers, the regular Scotch bonnet that we buy in the market, right? It's 70 TT a pound. Think about that or those types of prices hitting Trinidad.
What is it a pound now? What is it a pound now in Trinidad?
I think probably $15 or so. Right? I mean, I could be wrong on that price. I haven't checked the price in a while.
Well, just to give an idea, I mean, even if it's $20, you see the difference.
So even if it's $20, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so this is where I'm gonna be devil's advocate.
Shoot.
Okay. Because you're saying, why are we importing tomatoes, Massey's everything, that kind of thing. Food production. Let's picture a single meal, a lawyer, doing well, charges big bucks per hour, and he says, I'm not going to be growing my own tomatoes. I'm going to buy them.
Right.
I'm going to focus on what I'm good at. Let somebody focus on what they're good at, and I will just buy it. Take that example and you put it towards countries, right?
Yeah.
Brian Manning would have said 2, 3, whatever years ago. And he was not a minister then, so would have been their first term in office. And he was speaking at a budget presentation, and he was talking about the land and the amount of land that we have, and agriculture is just not sustainable in Trinidad, and blah 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 blah, and whatever. So okay, cool.
Well, it's not sustainable now in the current.
So we concentrate on earning an income, like the lawyer. We be the lawyer in the scenarios, and we import. So we import tomatoes. Why is that not an option? Why do we have to produce food?
So in any country, you will have those who earn a certain income, right? You will have those who are in the higher bracket. You will also have those who are not in those brackets. When we look at our economy and where we are with regards to the cost of living, even the middle income earners find it hard to survive. This was not so 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It wasn't like this. So aside from the wealthy or those who earn higher incomes, now we are seeing middle income earners having difficulty balancing budgets and affording foodstuff because of where prices are going. So I will agree that that's the question that's playing devil's advocate. But we are seeing in our country that even the middle income earners, those in the middle of the range, having difficulty, right? So do you go for do you say, okay, because of the minority, we're going to stop food production, have high food prices, those on the lower end of the scale have nothing better to do because they don't have a job, they can't afford food. When you can't afford food, you'll do anything for food. And you are spurring crime, you are encouraging crime. So let me put a spin on playing devil's advocate. Agricultural production can do a few things and it can alleviate crime. And I'll give you the example that I raised earlier, with regards to Project Hope. During the period when Project Hope was going on, there wasn't any fighting, there wasn't any shooting, there wasn't any warring. I volunteered as the agribusiness facilitator for them. I went in and teach them the academics, right? And those guys, the turnaround we saw in those guys is that one fella in phase one saying, well, listen, I do seedlings. The fella in phase three saying, well, I will open my plant shop. The fella in a different phase will say, I will open my agro shop. So we have to go nowhere. I can start selling little chemicals and things like that. Somebody else down the road saying, well, he could do something else. And what you found there was the creation of interdependence, but respectable interdependence. Because I respect you, because I know I can't do this, so you ought to do it, and I'll buy it from you. And you respect me, and so forth, right? That is a key for development in this country that we have never seen before. That is the key to empower people. That is the key to even off the distribution of income and the distribution of wealth. So I will make a statement here. If we aggressively pursue the development of agriculture, we could create at least average 15 to 20,000 sustainable jobs. Everybody complaining about Forex, and everybody talking about we have to do something to earn Forex, right? We understand that, and that's good. Nobody is speaking about what can we do to save Forex. And food production locally is the largest avenue where we could save Forex on. Let me give you an example. We currently import $38 million in milk alone. Yeah. $38 million in US in milk alone. If we are importing about 97% of our rice, and a few days ago on another program, I had one of the top rice farmers who put his foot down and said that the rice farmers in this country can produce nearly all of the rice that we need. Why are we not doing it? If you drive south, right from Caroni, you see on the left-hand side there, you see all that empty land. So from time you come down from the Caroni Bridge, after you pass Grand Bazaar, you will see them in blocks. They have been made to produce rice. And that is the case from the highway to the southern main road in a block that is almost 3,000 acres in that one spot. So when people saying we don't have the land for agriculture, that's rubbish. Right? I will say respectfully, that's rubbish. There are certain things we don't have the land for, I agree. But it cannot be used that generally we don't have the land for agricultural produce and for agriculture to become sustainable in this country. I will never agree with that. So we have the rice farmers coming out and saying we could produce almost everything that we need. But they're not doing it because there's an issue with payment. Rice farmers have to wait sometimes 18 months, 2 years to get paid. Right? Who can survive in that business? Who can survive with that model? And let me give you a next justification why we need to produce our own food. We all know what happened during COVID. Right? During COVID was the only time in 9 years that food production in this country increased. You know why? Because we couldn't import anything. So the farmers stepped up, put out their money, and produced food for this country. And after that, the farmers went back to be treated as, okay, well, you're not a registered farmer. You don't have access to incentives. But during COVID, they were farmers, right? Another example, take in consideration what took place when this whole Ukraine and Russia issue came up. That disrupted global supply chains, right? So why we need to produce our own food? If we want to have food, we have to produce, right? Because our geopolitical standings right now are quite volatile. And not even now, we can't tell when they can be volatile, right? And we have seen two examples recently where global supply chains can be disrupted and disrupted bad. NFM had reached a stage where they had to put all the resources into using their raw grains that they import into food and not for animal food, right? That's how bad this country was with regards to imported product, right? Thankfully, Guyana is taking this step where they're doing wheat and those kind of things. So we may have a close, a close source. But generally, now things like wheat and things like that, okay, all right. We do have the land to really do that. You need about, I would say, to look at our current wheat imports, you would need about 25, 30,000 acres for that to be under production to do that. So at that level, no, Guyana have the space there right there. If we don't have wheat, we could do corn, we could do rice, right? We could do many other things to start to offset our food import bill. And when we offset our food import bill, we reduce the reliance on foreign exchange. And we all know what will happen if we have more foreign exchange. It leads to a better quality of life. So I hope in a capsule that answers the question, and that deals with the
Maybe advocates. Yes. Talk to me like a 2-year-old, right? You spoke about policy. You spoke about Arangwes. That specific. So, like for instance, with the rice farmers, they getting paid and whatnot is an issue. If you were the Minister of Agriculture, what would you do immediately? So you said policy, but what would you do immediately? Basic to someone who doesn't understand agriculture at all. We just know we go into the grocery or we buy it from the side of the road or we don't buy no more again. What would you do? What do you think immediately in the next 3 months? Because according to you, this is critical.
Yes, it is.
We are at critical levels of production. The numbers that you called certainly sounds critical.
Oh, by the way, just a plug. If anybody is doubting my numbers, you could Google review of the economy 2023. And there's a table that you will see with our agricultural production over the last 9 years. And you could fact check anything that I'm saying, right? So I don't want to sound like an alarmist. And I don't want anybody to say, oh my God, he's painting this picture. No, this is fact, right? And the review of the economy is a publication that has been compiled and published by the government of Trinidad and Tobago, the current government, because that was done in 23 for the last budget.
Their data.
That's their data. That's not Bonnie Rogers' data. It's not the AST data. ASTT data. It's not the UNC data. It is the government's data that was published just last year as one of the documents that supports the budget statement. Right? So going on to the question, what would someone do if they were to be the minister tomorrow morning? It's a multifaceted approach. We have to promote produce. We have to promote production in produce, in root crops, in fruits.
How do we promote that?
It will take a multi-layered policy, and it sounds complicated, but simple things. Review the criteria needed to get a farmer's badge.
Is it that it's too difficult now?
So a farmer's badge is hinged on land tenure. If you don't have land tenure, you can't get a farmer's badge. So you see what the problem is.
5% of the persons that have no land tenure are not registered farmers.
You see where we're going with it.
Oh my goodness.
So you could see the big difference that will make, right? I will promote agro-processing as well into things that we don't normally do. Canning, right? And the reason why I'll do that is that when we now go and we push production, every single farmer could never say that they can't sell their produce. Either you sell it to the market, you sell it to supermarkets, or you could sell it to the processors.
Yeah.
So where you can't afford guaranteed markets, you could create the spread where farmers could sell in any avenue you want to. Right? And if we create these internal efficiencies, you will find that our turnover, you will find our production rates increasing, because now you create the environment where farmers could say, right, I could put out the money with the processors. You might have to work with a guaranteed price, right? Which personally I think contract farming is the way of the future, because it gives the farmers a guaranteed price any time of the year. All right. There's a responsibility on the farmer that when the price high, you still sell at that price, because it's the ethics in it. But I will create the avenues where produce can be processed as well, and processed sustainably. And when I say sustainably, the reason why we don't have much agro processors in this country is because they'll have to be fishing around for produce all over the place. I know agro processors who on a daily basis struggling to get raw material. When you're struggling to get raw material, you are not optimizing your assets, right? I mean, you're not going to make as much money on your investment as you hope. Another thing I would do is immediately begin an agricultural census. I believe, from my information, the last agricultural census we had was, I believe, around 2004 or so, something around there. Yeah.
What is an agricultural census? What does that entail? What do you hope to get out of it?
In my interpretation, an agricultural census should not be where enumerators go and they just point out how much farmers we have, what they're producing, where they're located, how much house they have on the property, those kind of things. Because if we Google local census and those kind of things, basically that is about the gist of information you're getting. We need to be able to answer a question like this: who is producing what, to what amount, under what conditions, right? If we could answer who producing what, where, how much of it, and under what conditions, we will be able to have the empirical data to solve a lot of problems.
Data.
Right?
It always comes down to data with this
Exactly.
government.
It boils down to data. Because how do we prescribe a policy to develop if it's not based on data? And an agricultural census will take 6-9 months or something like that. So by the first year, you could have increased production, you could have more processors, you could have a almost certain climate where productive yields always have avenue for sales, farmers make more money, those kinds of things. And I keep saying it's multifaceted, because we also have to promote we have to go back to the basics. We have to look at, okay, so right now in the ASTT, I will share this here. I was in meetings all day with them. So we just approved a farmer training program. And that farmer training program is on the responsible use of pesticides and chemicals. And the intent of it, sometimes, you have to reverse engineer something. So we're going to make sure that the chemicals that they use are used safely for them, effectively, and make sure they use the right amount, so they're not over applying. But what that program will do, and the main intent, is that it will promote the increase of insect pollinators. If you promote the increase in insect pollinators, naturally you will have higher yields without putting more chemicals. And that's sometimes looking at it in the reverse engineered way. It goes down to the basics. That's what I say. The answer is not difficult. The answers are in front of us, but it's just how we look at it.
Is it that there's no political will? If it's so simple, I mean, I started off the show talking about the situation at schools, right? With the
Right.
furniture, the rat infestation, children standing up. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
dude, we have the same opening and closing dates every term. We know what a school need. We've been at education for a long time.
It's not science at the end of the
No,
day. You
like
know?
it really
Yeah.
isn't. I mean,
Exactly.
agriculture, I don't speak on agriculture. It's not something, I kind of go, okay, maybe that might be a little bit more technical. Some things feel like common sense.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I could say in this case, it's simplistic. It is not complicated. Being multi-layered or having a few things to do to s- to get a positive end result does not say it's complicated. And these are the basics. Okay, you want to increase your yields? What is better than training a farmer to operate in a certain way where his input costs that everybody complaining about because chemicals gone sky high, his input costs are managed and hopefully lowers, but his productive yields increase. Personally, to me, I think that's a wonderful combination,
Can I
right?
can
How
I
do
ask
we?
can I interject here and ask a question? Let me
Sure,
rewind a little bit.
you were
You
rather quiet all the time.
so, I like to listen intently, and I'm first time working on a one-on-one with Miss Walker, so I try
Right.
to build people's charisma before I interject and all of that. But based on the agricultural situation, I'm very concerned about it also. The incidents with the people in Pinal and Diego Martin, and prior to that we had another problem down Tucker Valley area earlier on, some couple of years ago. But that area you spoke about, that massive expanse of land that you see from like the Caroni Bridge. If you have a binoculars, you can probably see planes taxiing
Yeah.
on
Mhm.
the airport.
Yeah.
Is that state lands? I always ask myself, why isn't it being used for agricultural purposes, or is it because of the what should I say, the way it could be flooded when it rains extensively, that maybe rice production is the only thing we can plant there. If you had access, like Marsha asked you, if you were the Minister of Agriculture, what would you have done to that massive expanse of land that seems to be just there?
So, firstly, that expanse of land is both government, state that farmers will have leases for, and it will be a mixture of that and those currently limited 2 acres that the former employees got, right? So, aside from the 2,500 to 3,000 acres that I explained, that is right after the Caroni Bridge, a
Yeah.
little bit lower down, there's a farming group, an area called Jinningham Junction, right? And that's more in central around Canopia and stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is where you have a specific concentration of those 2 acre plots that the former Carmen Limited workers got. In that farming district alone, when we're not talking about St. Helena and Kelly Village and things like that, that's closer to the airport. We
Mm-hmm.
are talking about in Cunupia that is adjacent to this 2,500 acres. You have 550 acres, all made up of 2 acre plots. Now you telling me you actively encourage production in 550 acres, right? You know what kind of production you're going to get, right? So let's just step back to what I was saying earlier about the agri census. There is something that the president of the ASTT always speaks about, and that is a crop forecasting system. A crop forecasting system will do a few things. It will ensure you don't have any gluts and you don't have any shortages. And by virtue, it would lead to more stable retail prices for produce on the market, right? When you do that, when you employ these simple things and you base your policy decision on data and on fact. Now we could come and do a crop forecasting system that a farmer who want to make sure he make money could go on to and say, listen, okay, I want to do a crop, I want to do this, I want to do that. If you're going to do tomatoes, do 2 acres. If you're going to do melon, do 1 acre, right? And those kinds of things. And that is where we need, those are the types of conversations we need to be having with farmers. We need to be guiding them as to when to produce what and how much of it. So it goes in tandem into a bigger picture, right? So I would do two things with that area. One, I will encourage rice production in that 2,500 acres by fixing what needs to be fixed. And all you have to fix is make sure the farmers get paid on time. That's all in Marsha. The only problem with rice production in this country is the length of time farmers get paid, because NFM has the guaranteed market for the farmers, and when they sell their rice to NFM, they have to wait for payment, right? And their incentives and those kind of things. You know, however it go with government to NFM and that kind of thing, right? But pay the people the money. Rice not sitting on the shelf for 2 years. So why you want to take the rice, process it, sell it, and they can't get money? At least maximum a period of 4 to 6 months to get paid. And that is stretching it. Because in rice production, one piece of equipment is $1.2 million. Right? And
how much forex could we sell? How much forex could we save if we concentrated on the rice production?
I would say probably about 50, 60 million US a year. So milk and rice, you're looking at 100 million US a year.
Both we can do on our own.
Yeah, we could easily do that.
Easily. Arangwes, what would you do to encourage two things? The youth on the whole into agriculture. And you said right now, you know, the landowners in Arangwes saying, you know what, put up the warehouse, give them a $2-3 million, put up a warehouse.
Yeah.
Is that simply down to the crime? Fix the issue of
Arangwes
and whatnot?
You know, from my information, really is where you have more of the older farmers, because that is an area that has predominantly for generations been an agricultural area, right? It may be a little bit more difficult to apply remedy to Arangwes, but I think that even if Arangwes, you know, the people there decide to continue to sell, we have other areas that could be a breadbasket, that could meet up with the production, that could maintain sustainable yields. You know, the dynamics in Arangwes, because you have more older farmers, and it's more culturally hinged, right? It may be a little bit more difficult to affect that or to influence the change in that, right? Because those farmers would be the older guys who educate the children. They're doctors and lawyers and engineers and those kind of things, who tell themselves, hey, I go in and buy. You know? So each area in Trinidad
maybe they could rent it out to a farmer.
Well, exactly. They could even do that. You know, you could rent it out. So as it relates to dairy farming, and let's look at if we could create the change. In about 5 years' time, we went from about 100.
We just have about 5 more minutes, okay? Just making sure.
We went from about 150, 160 farmers about 5 years ago to just about 65. That is where the yields are dropping. It is not difficult for us to create the change in any subsector of the agricultural sector. Dairy, rice, fruit production, produce, root crops. I was having a conversation with one of the national awardees some years ago, Ramdev Bundu, right? Well known for his expertise in root crop production. And he and I agree, the problem could be solved. And it's not difficult. right? So all I could say is that we have the capacity to do it locally. The farming cohort of Trinidad and Tobago, we proved ourselves during COVID because I don't think much people went without food, right? Food was the one thing that went right during COVID, right? So the evidence is there. We could do it, but the farming sector needs the push. And this is a topic that has to happen from an evidence-based point of view that is pushed by the government. All right?
Johnny, thank you so much for joining us, for giving your expertise, your experience. This is not a sector that I pay attention to, and I can say that my eyes have been opened. I was thinking throughout, like, where to cut, put a 2 minutes, put a 2 minutes, and I thought to myself, I would just want persons to sit and listen to the entire hour, because the information truly was eye-opening. Rapid fire entertainment. I see that you're messaging. I'm so sorry that I left you alone. In the first hour, it was the audience that was keeping us, because my first guest, as I said to you, is unfortunately still in the police station. While you were talking, I did check with the lawyers. We are hoping that Christmas comes out tonight, but thus far he is still in the station from since 10 this morning. So guys, thank you to everyone who commented and had conversation with me through the first hour. Donnie, thank you so much. I think we will
Thank
have
you for having me here.
Budget is coming up, so we may have you back for that.
Anytime I'm available. Thank you.
Guys, see you next week, Thursday from 4 to 6. Hard Talk with Marsha Walker. Okay. Bye, guys.
Cool.
Okay, thank you, Marsha. It's been a pleasure. And I one with you this time. I look forward to next Thursday. And thank you, Mr. Rogers.
We didn't get your name. We just call you Studio. What's your name?
My name is David McIntyre.
Hi, David.
Okay. Nice to meet you, David.
Nice to meet you too.
Take care. All the best.
Bye. Okay, be safe. Yes, bye. That's it for today's edition of Hard Talk with Marsha Walker and her special guest, Donnie Rogers. She'll be back next Thursday for another edition of Hard Talk right here at Power 102 Digital.